Hello, welcome to Postcolonial Space. I'm Masood Raja, and what follows is an excerpted clip from one of my longer webinars. So what I've decided is that sometimes when people ask really interesting questions, I will pull out that particular part of a webinar and make it available to you as a short clip so that if you don't have time to watch a 1-hour webinar, you can at least watch and listen to the brief exchanges that I usually have with people who attend my webinars. So here is one such clip from a recent webinar. I hope you enjoy it. So Irfan, the question I wanted to ask is that why are parts of the world are intellectually apparent so negligible if we see it in relation to West in the global intellectual? Well, I wouldn't say that. So first of all, no one is inherently intellectually better or worse. The reason is very infrastructural. Okay, so I mean, think of Pakistani universities. First of all, they don't have the resources. They have not built the resources, right? There is not even a single Pakistani university that has a world-class library, right? So you're already putting the people in a situation where they cannot access most of the resources that already exist. Part of it also is that knowledge is controlled by, at this moment, 6 global corporations. All scientific and social science knowledge is produced by 6 corporations. And not many universities here can even afford that. So first is the infrastructural problem. We have not invested in education that much. Then we have an elite class that has their own idea of what constitutes being educated. And part of it is an unreflected copying of whatever is trendy in the West, right? But then there is no culture in which inquiry and publishing is encouraged or taught. People do that because they want to get promoted and then they find their shortcuts. So part of it is infrastructural, part of it is whatever our colonial legacy was, and part of it is that not much money is being invested in education. Now, where I would fault the intellectuals, let's say, mostly in Pakistan, India has some really, really brilliant scholars, is that those who become very senior, they stop producing, right? And they get into this game of power and all. And part of it is also, I mean, sanctions, the fear. I mean, if you are a humanities scholar in Pakistan, there are things you absolutely cannot write and publish about because your life would be imperiled, right? So you can't criticize the army or can't even do deep analysis of the actions of the generals or whatever because you'll get in trouble. You cannot really question the basic assumptions of faith, right? Because if you do that, you'll get in trouble. Now, if you look at the rise of Western philosophy, part of it was inaugurated by the rise of secular thought when people started challenging the claims of the theologians, right? The early philosophers, the ideologists were religious scholars, right? They were trying to find God, right? Now, if you have a society in which you can't really deeply philosophically question matters of faith or criticize them, can't criticize the state institutions without getting in trouble, you are already being trained to limit your thought and the work that you produce. And if you do that, that puts you at a disadvantage, right? So there are structural reasons, there are personal reasons, right? And then there are reasons of resources. All of those combined then produce an intellectual class that is globally not competitive. It's not that they don't know their Western theory, it's that they don't even know their own history and cannot mobilize it to challenge the global assumptions. Sukhdev, don't you think humanities are worst targets of the ruling elite in the third world countries? Yeah, and there is a reason behind it, I think. Part of it is that when they make an economic argument, or the argument is, what are you going to do with a humanities degree? Because they want to put more money in STEM disciplines. Sometimes IMF mandates that if there are some funds for education, they should go to business or STEM. But the other is that there is this mythology that humanistic education is a waste of time, but also it creates these lazy, agitational people, young people, their minds get corrupted and they cause unrest. Then there is also, if you are in a religious confessional nation, there is this threat that humanistic education will bring the religious doctrine to crisis, right? And all of these things, on one hand, make humanities a target, but they also teach us something, that whether they like it or not, most people in power think of humanities as a threat to the status quo. So that means they at least acknowledge that humanistic education has the possibility to change people's minds and maybe to work towards local and global change, right? And Sukhdev ji, is publish or Paris policy delivering in the West? Yes and no. It is delivering in terms of people being forced to publish, but it is also forcing a lot of good people out of the academy. The good part is that publish and perish here is not really misused. People don't like make themselves co-authors with their graduate students' papers or put their name with their wife's paper. So in that sense, there is more integrity to the system. The problem in Pakistan that I'm seeing is that every single graduate student who's working with a professor, when they try to publish their paper, the professor wants to be listed as a co-author, right? And that part of the publish and perish mandate that they're creating in Pakistan is creating even a worse situation where people can come and claim, I have 150 articles, right? But they don't have an oeuvre. They have not produced a body of work that is coherent and has some progression. They have 150 articles because they added their name to every article that their students published. So I think to some extent, publish and perish can be a good incentive. But I would rather have scholars who just want to study and learn so that they're motivated about producing something new and fresh, or at least they're motivated about challenging, the world and as it exists. So that is how my idea is. Thank you so much for watching or listening to this brief clip. If you are interested in the longer version, the link will be in the description and you can watch the whole webinar. Thank you so much for your support. And as always, if you have any questions, any concerns, you can always post them in the comments and I'll be happy to respond to them. If you have a moment and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so now so that you get timely notifications of whatever is happening on this channel. Thank you for your support. Stay safe, and as always, from me to you, peace and love.